I need it. That's right. Merlin was in a mood. A good mood. Claire! As she came down the steps. The only thing in the shack itself were the steps leading down into his main chamber. He flashed across the room in a blur and stopped just an inch away from her. Close enough that she flinched back into Sam's broad chest and he steadied her. Merlin's eyes were wide, blazing with enthusiasm. I've been waiting. Late. You're very late, you know. Come on, we haven't got time for nonsense. Did you bring the books? Good. What about Last Will and Testament? Are you familiar with the symbols? Here, take this. Chalk pressed into her hand. Merlin moved again, fast as the grasshopper, and rolled an ancient stained chalkboard closer, and he had to shove others over some stacks of books to do it, which he did with cheerful disregard of how much of a mess he was making. Sam almost inaudibly whispered, "Be careful. He's dangerous when he's like this." You're no kidding. Claire nodded, swallowed and smiled as Merlin turned towards her with those crazy, delighted eyes. She wanted to ask what came after the manic phase, but she didn't dare. I'll be in the other room, Sam said. Merlin waved him off impatiently, barely sparing him a glance. Yes, fine, go. Here, first let's start with the Egyptian inscription for Asem. Asem. You know what element that represents? Electrum, Claire said, and carefully chalked the symbol, sort of a ball with a big staff through the middle. How's that? Excellent! Yes, that's it. Now something difficult. Chesbet. Sapphire. That was a hard one. Claire bit her lip for a second, getting the order in her mind, and then drew it out. Circle above a double slash line, next to a leg, next to a thing that looked kind of like a car with no wheels over two separated circles. No, Merlin said, grabbed an eraser and rubbed out the car. Too modern. Look. He drew it again, this time more roughly, and it still looked like a car to her. She copied it twice until he was satisfied. There were a lot of symbols, and he quizzed her on just about all of them, growing more and more excited. Her arm ached from holding up the chalk to the board, especially when, after she screwed up the symbol for lead, he made her repeat it 100 times. We should do this on a computer, she said, chalking it carefully for the 89th time, with a drawing pad. Nonsense! You're lucky I don't make you inscribe it with a stylus on a wax tablet, like the old days. Merlin snorted. Children. Spoiled children. Always playing with the shiniest toy. Computers are more efficient. I can perform calculations on that abacus faster than you can solve them on your computer. Merlin sneered. Okay, now it was pissing her off. Prove it. What? Prove it. She backed off on her tone. Merlin wasn't looking angry. He was looking strangely interested. He stared at her for a second in silence, and then he broke into the biggest, oddest smile she'd ever seen on the face of a vampire. All right, he said. A contest. Computer versus abacus. She wasn't all sure now that was a good idea, even if it had been her idea, essentially. What do I win? More importantly, what do I lose? Making bargains was a way of life in Morganville, and it was a lot like making deals with man-eating fairies. Better be careful what you ask for. Your freedom, he said solemnly. His eyes were wide and guileless, his too young face shining with honesty. I will tell Amelia we're not suited to this work. She'll let you go about your life, such as it is. Good price. Too good. Claire swallowed hard. And if I lose? Then I eat you, Merlin said, with absolutely no change in expression. You can't do that. She pulled up the sleeve on her shirt and held up her wrist so the gold bracelet caught the light. Don't be ridiculous, he said. Of course I can do it. I can do anything I want, child. Without me there is no future. No one, especially Amelia, begrudges me the occasional titbit. You're hardly large enough to qualify as a meal in any case, and besides, I'm making it well worth your while. She took a step back from him, a big one, that crazy smile. She glanced towards the door of the other room, where Sam was waiting for her. No wonder Amelia had told him to stay. Merlin gave a sad, theatrical sigh. Mortals simply aren't what they used to be, he said. 1,000 years ago, you would have bartered your immortal soul for a crust of stale bread. Now we can't even get you to gamble at all, even for your freedom. Really, people have become so boring. So no bet, really? She shook her head. His expression fell into utter disappointment. All right, he said. Then you will write me an essay for tomorrow on the history of alchemy. I can't expect it to be scholarly, but I do expect you to understand the basis of what it is that I am trying to teach you. You're teaching me alchemy? He seemed surprised. and looked around his laboratory. "Can you not see what I'm doing here?" "But alchemy, it's crap. I mean, it's like magic. No, not science." "Alchemy's accomplishments are sadly forgot, and yes, magic is an excellent description for things for which I have no basis to understand. As for science..." Many made a rude noise. His eyes had taken on that hectic shine again. "Science is a method, not a religion, yet it can be just as close-minded. Open minds here, Claire. Always open minds. Question everything, accept nothing as fact until you prove it for yourself. Yes?" She nodded hesitantly, more afraid to disagree with him than convinced. Merlin grinned at her and slapped her back with stinking force. "That's my girl," he said. "Now, what do you know about the theory of Schrodinger's? The one about the cat?" Merlin didn't go weird until the very end of Claire's time with him, when he was, she thought, getting tired. She had to admit, there was something fun about working in his lab. He had so much passion, so much enthusiasm for everything. Even for scaring her silly. It was like a little kid, all nervous energy and fiddling hands, quick to laugh, quick to cut her down if she made a mistake. He liked to mock, not correct. He thought if she had to figure it out for herself, she'd learn it properly. She checked her watch and found it was almost 8 o'clock. Late. She was supposed to be home by now. Merlin was ignoring her, temporarily, as she copied out tablets of incomprehensible symbols from a book he said was so rare it was the only copy left. She yawned, stretched and said, "I need to be going." He had his eyes fixed to what looked like clunky ancient microscope. "Already? It's late. I should go home." Merlin straightened, stared at her, and she saw the storm forming in his expression. "You are dictating to me now?" he snapped. "Who is the master? Who is the student?" Sorry, but I can't stay here all night." Merlin walked towards her, and she couldn't even recognize him. No more manic energy, no more humor, no more sharp, brilliant anger. He looked troubled and clouded. "Home," he repeated. "Home is where the heart is. Why don't you leave yours here? I'll take good care of it." My heart?" She dropped the pen and backed up, putting a big lab table full of chemical equipment between them. Merlin bared his teeth and put down his fangs. Discovery Channel. King Cobra. Oh God, can he spit venom or something? His eyes flared bright, fueled with something that looked to her like fear. "Don't run," he said, and sounded annoyed. "I hate it when they run. Now, tell me what you're doing here," he demanded. "Why do you keep following me? Who are you?" "It's Claire, Merlin. I'm your apprentice. I'm supposed to be here, remember?" That was the wrong thing to say, and she had no idea why. Merlin stopped, and the light in his eyes intensified to insanity. Ugly, and very scary. When he moved, it was a smooth, sinuous glide. "My apprentice," he said. "So I own you, then. I can do as I wish." King Cobra. "Sam!" Claire yelled, and bolted for the stairs. She didn't get more than 2 steps. Merlin came over the table, scattering glass instruments to shatter in glittering sprays on the floor. And she felt his cold, impossibly strong hands close on her ankles and jerk backward. She flailed for something to grab onto, but it was only a tower of books, and it collapsed as she fell. She hit the floor hard enough to put the world on a sparkling, unsteady hold for a few seconds, and when she blinked away the stairs, Merlin had taken hold of her shoulders and was staring down at her, inches away. "Don't," she said. "Merlin, don't. I'm your friend. I won't hurt you." She didn't know why she said it, but it must have been the right thing to do. His eyes widened, white showing all around, and then the glitter of crazy was replaced by a flood of tears. He patted her cheek, soft and confused, and the fangs folded up in his mouth. "Dear child," he said, "what are you doing here? Is Amelia making you come here?" "She shouldn't. You're far too young and kind. You should tell her you won't come back. I don't want to hurt you, but I will." He tapped his forehead. "This is betraying me. This stupid flesh." The tapping became violent, slaps to his forehead, and tears broke free to run down his cheeks. "I need to teach someone, but not you. Not you, Claire. Too young, too small. You bring out the beast." He stood up and wandered away, tisking over the broken glass, writing the fallen books, as if she'd ceased to exist. Claire sat up and rolled to her feet, shaky and scared. Sam was standing just a few feet away. She hadn't seen or heard him approach, and he hadn't acted to save her. His face was tense, his eyes uneasy. "He's sick," Claire said. "Sick, sick, sick. Yes, I am," Merlin said. He had his head in his hands now, as if it hurt him. "We're all sick, all doomed." What's he talking about? Claire turned to Sam. "Nothing." He shook his head. "Don't listen to him." Merlin looked up and bared his teeth. His eyes were fierce, but they were sane. Mostly sane, anyway. "They won't tell you the truth, little morsel, but I will. We're dying." 70 years ago, Sam moved out of his way, and for the first time since she'd met him, Sam actually looked threatening. "Merlin, shut up." "No!" Merlin sighed. "It's time for talking. I've been shut up enough." He looked up and his eyes were red-rimmed and full of tears. "Oh, little girl, do you understand? My race is dying. My race is dying and I don't know how to stop it." Claire's mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't find anything to say. Sam turned towards her, fury still radiating off him like heat. "Ignore him," he said. "He doesn't know what he's saying. We should go, before he remembers what he was about to do. Or forgets what he shouldn't." Claire cast a look back over her shoulder at Merlin, who was holding a broken glass pipe in his hands, trying to fit the two pieces back together. When it wouldn't go, he dropped it and covered his face with both hands. She could see his shoulders shaking. Shouldn't somebody help him? "There's no help," Sam said in a voice flat with anger. "There's no cure. And you're not coming back here again if I can do anything about it." Hello everyone, thank you for listening to the audio file or audio reading I've done of a Rachel Kane book. I'm putting this in there, so if you want to skip past this bit and move on to the next video, that's fine by me. This is just like a cancer plug, because I want to do this, as well as also I have to do this, because the thing you've just listened to is illegal for me to do without having a charity case behind it, which I don't want it to be like a situation like, oh, I'm only doing this for the sake of cancer, which I'm actually doing this for the sake of cancer, but I did cancel this series a long time ago. It came to my recent attention that I should redo this in a better format, and I feel like now is a perfect opportunity to actually restart this in the worst possible way. Back in 1st of November, back in 2020, Rachel Kane sadly passed away to a rare bone cancer called sarcoma. Now, in the description below is going to be a link that it's going to be a link so you can support the research into helping people survive and defeat sarcoma bone cancer and soft tissue cancer cells and all that stuff. So that's just going to be in the description right there down below. It is in pounds for those American ones, but obviously PayPal and all the research still goes to the same thing, because once it's been cured, once they found a cure for it or found an easier solution for it and stuff like that, it does get sent around all around the world, because everyone works on the same thing all over the world. It's just that this charity is based in UK. I live in the UK, so it still goes to the same goal to beat sarcoma for a long time, and I feel like this is the best opportunity to work with it for any Rachel King books that we do during the Morganville series or any future series that we do. Obviously, this is even going to be in the future series if we do them. So any book that we do by Rachel Kane is going to have this at the end, just to plug a little bit of a cancer support for people with sarcoma, because it is a rare cancer, and there is not a very good survival rate. So just putting that in there to help people or to support the issues that are out there, because I'm not going to get any money from these videos at all, even in like the present one. I'm not getting any money of this recording, or in the future, if possibly I do. But this is not what I'm about. This is all about for what Rachel Kane succumbed to in the end. So hopefully that as a team together we can beat sarcoma and end one of the cancers that are killing people, because no one likes that. But anyway, have a good day.